Okay, so all I'm going to be doing in this video is going through the test. I'm actually going over each of the problems individually, talking about stuff, showing you how to solve it. Hopefully that'll help clarify some things. So yeah, I'm just going to get into this. I am doing this kind of from scratch. I don't have solution manuals or anything like that. So honestly, I might mess something up, but let's hope that that is not the case. So number one, first of all, everybody got right. Technically, you probably should have had more than just like if you said that 2 was just a rational number. I mean, that's right, and I give you credit for that, but it should have been probably, you know, rational number, integer, whole number, um, all those different things technically would have been the more correct answer, but I'm kind of assuming that everybody knows how to do that kind of stuff anyway. That's kind of review old stuff. So I'm not going to bother going over number one because everybody got that one. Let me see. Number two, we've got, oof. I really should have like a paper copy of this or something. -2 times 4 squared minus 3 times 5 parentheses divided by 2. I think most people got this one as well. Simple order of operations issue right here. You do 16 because exponents come first. They're in parentheses. You do minus 15. That's equal to 1. -2 times 1 equals -2. Divided by 2 is -1. Some people lost the negative, but that was the biggest issue with that one. I think for the most part, people got that. It was just an order of operations thing. You got to do the parentheses first, do your exponent before you do your multiplication within the parentheses, then do the subtraction. Once your parentheses is done, -2 carries over, divide by 2, you get 1. So that one hopefully shouldn't be something that we need to talk about too much. And I don't think we do. I don't think too many people had any troubles with that, except for, like I said, losing the negative. Number three. Okay, so number three was the operations in scientific notation. So that was 3 times 10 to the first times 3 times 10 to the fourth. So we multiply out our whatever they're called, coefficients. That's not the coefficient, whichever one it is, the base. I don't know. I can't remember the names of them right now. And then we add these exponents. So whenever you're multiplying exponents, it'd be 10 to the 1 plus 4, which is 5. So we have 9 times 10 to the fifth. Also, you guys were allowed to use your calculators, so you probably could have just gone 30 times 3 or 30,000 equals 900,000, which has 5 zeros, so it's 9 times 10 to the fifth. Either way you did that is fine. You should know how to do it both ways, actually, but yeah, that one didn't give people too many problems. A couple of people forgot to multiply the 3 out, and then a couple of people did one, thought of it as just like a 3, so they didn't multiply, or they had times 10 to the fourth, but everybody was at least close and on the right track with that one. Number 4. So this one actually people did fairly well on too. 4A was from 45 to 65. And then B was it was a percent change problem. So calculate the percent change from 45 to 65 and then from 65 to 45. And so the main thing was just remembering that formula was second one minus the first one. So 65 minus 45 over, and then it was the first one. So a couple of people got this backwards. You should have ended up with 40.44 repeating percent. And then on the second one, you would have done 45 minus 65 over 65, which should have given you like negative 30.37 or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but it was something to this effect. The main thing was getting this formula right and picking which one you wanted to use as your denominator, and which one was your first number. And most of you did fine on that. So I don't think that one's worth talking about too much either. But I believe now we're starting to get into the ones that were a little bit more of a struggle for some people. It takes a while to erase all that. All right. So number 5 was express the following in interval notation. So interval, I'm gonna write this out. notation. I apologize, my handwriting's so bad on this, but for some reason my pen is kind of being worse than normal today. And then it was -4 is less than x, and then is it less than or equal to or less than? Is less than -1. So interval notation is something we're going to talk about more this week. That was something that a lot of people struggled with, and it's not necessarily super easy. And I definitely the first time didn't explain it very well. The second time, a lot of you didn't even watch that video, so it's hard to say. The first thing we need to do is identify our smallest and largest value that x can be. So in this case, the smallest value can be is -4. The largest value is -1. So our points are going to be -4 and -1. And then the key is to determine whether or not they're included or excluded from our interval. So if x is -4, this is no longer true because -4 is not greater than -4. So -4 is excluded, so we can do that. And then same with the -1. If we pick -1, -1 is not less than -1, it is the same, so we need to do that. If I had changed these to equal signs, we could have used square brackets. But since they weren't equal signs, they needed to be closed normal parentheses. Okay. And like I said, we're going to practice interval notation a little bit more in class this week as well. Actually, I think it'll be Wednesday. So tomorrow when I'm making this video, probably today when you're watching it, if you watch it. Number 6. So number 6 asked to write the following as a set of ordered pairs. So set of ordered pairs. And then it asked to write the domain and range in interval notation, domain and range in int notation. Was it an A and B or was it just, no, it wasn't an A and B. And then it was G of, it's so hard to go back and forth. G of -2 equals, I think it said 5. There we go, now I've got them back to back. Equals 5. G of 3 equals 9. And G of 4 equals -4. 4 equals, I don't know why I keep forgetting to close my parentheses, equals -4. Okay, so the points are easy, and I think most people got this. -2, 5, 3, 9, and 4, -4. So these were the points. Now, there were two possible ways you could have answered this. Some people took this to mean that each one of these was an individual point and that was the entire function. So they just wrote out like domain is -2, 3, and 4. Range is 5, 9, and -4. I gave you credit for that. That wasn't technically what it was asking. So the idea was that this is supposed to be one continuous function. So from -2 to +4 are the x values, from 5 to -4 up to 9, and then back to -4 were the y values. So I'm going to write it out. I'm going to do it the way that the actual interval notation is supposed to be. But you could, if you had said that domain equals -2, 3, 4, and range equals 5, 9, -4. I gave you credit for this because it's the way the question is worded. That's kind of a right answer. What it actually wanted us to do was say, okay, our smallest value for our domain, start with that. We've got -2 is our smallest value, 3, and then 4 is our biggest value. So we've got -2, 4, and they're both included because they are points on this graph. The range then, the smallest point was -4. The largest was actually 9 in this case. So our range would have been -4, 9, and also included. So this would have been the way they wanted you to write it. This was something that I accepted. And a lot of people at least got the points right. But again, interval notation seems to be an issue. Need like a bigger eraser. Can do this faster. Okay, let's see. Number 7. Okay, so number 7 had the graph picture that was drawn in there. It looks like this. It hits the point 0, 0. I'm just listing the important points. 2, 0, and I think it was -2, 0. And then the y min is -3 down here, and the y max was 3 up here. So first, I asked you to write the domain and range and interval notation. This time, people actually got it right a lot of the time for some reason. I'm not 100% sure why. It's great, but I'm not sure what happened there. So for our x, -2 is our smallest possible x. 2 is our largest possible x. And then that's closed off. And then for y, so this would be domain. And then for range, we went from -3 to +3. And those were also included. So yeah, I think somebody might have mixed up the y value and the x, but for the most part, this was actually not that bad for people. B and C. So B asked us to find, it was evaluate f of 0. And then this one was f of 2. Whoa, f of 2. So when it asks you to evaluate f of 0, that's saying basically what is the value of f of x when x equals 0. So in this case, this is what is y when x is 0, and when x is 0, that was at the origin. It was 0, 0, so this is 0. And then this one's asking what is y when x is 2, and that was here, which we have the 0.20. If you actually had the real graph, it looks this, and you've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So at f of 2, you had 0. At f of 0, you had 0. At f of -2, you would have also had 0, but they didn't ask for that one. Okay. Why isn't that erasing? Okay, let's see. We got number 8. So number 8 wanted us to write an equation. Write an equation in f of x equals mx plus b for a line that goes through the points 10, -4, and -15, 7. So this one, first you had to calculate the slope. We know that m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's how we calculate our slope to start. And that in this case is y2 is 7 minus -4. And this is -15 minus 10. So you should get 11 over -25. So -11 over 25 is our m. So now we have f of x equals -11 over 25. A lot of you just put that as a decimal, as 0.44, and that's fine too. X plus b. Now solving for b was weirdly difficult for a lot of people. I'm guessing it's just because you haven't done it for a long time. Like this is Algebra 1 stuff, which is why I didn't think we need to spend a lot of time on it, but it's not a huge deal if you missed it. It's just something that a lot of people probably haven't practiced with. All we got to do is put in our points for x now. So our points for x and f of x. So remember, when we're using f of x, this is written as x comma f of x. It's just y. So let's say we want to use -4, and then we want to use 10 for x. So we get -4 equals -110 over 25 plus b. We add 110 over 25, which is 4 and 2/5 to each side. Oh, 4. Eraser, help me. So plus 4 and 2/5. And I just solved that and reduced it. These cancel. This gives us b equals 2/5. fifths. So you should have had f of x equals negative 11 over 25x plus 2 fifths. Or for those of you that did it in decimals, it was negative 0.44x plus 0.4. Okay. I think that one went mostly well. So it was usually just solving for b when people did miss it. There were a couple that struggled with the first part too, but you probably just picked the wrong points for x and y would be my guess. Or y1 and y2. Okay, so move on to number 9. Okay, so number 9 had a graph that looked something like this, I think. Yeah, so it was something like that. I'm not going to bother with the individual points. If you want to look and see what the actual graph was, you can go ahead and look on your own. So 9a asked if it was linear or nonlinear. It was nonlinear. It's made of a bunch of lines, but it's not one consistent straight line. You can't write this as y equals mx plus b. So it is nonlinear. 9b asks us on what interval is this function increasing, and that's from here to here. That's the only interval that it's increasing on. And I believe, let's see, that was from -1 to 0. So it should have been -1, 0. Technically, I wouldn't have docked you points for having the wrong brackets here. I might have mentioned that you had the wrong brackets if you use square brackets. But technically, slopes at these points, since they're all like sharp turns like this, are undefined. So those aren't actually included in our intervals. So none of the points on this graph should have been included, but if you didn't get that, that's not a huge deal. So then 9c would have been -2 to -1, and then you'd use a union symbol, and it was from 0 to 2, where when it was decreasing was what 9c was asking. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really say about that one. Okay. So 10, I actually remember because this one kind of, I was surprised that people had as much trouble with this one as possible. So it was f of x equals -1/2 x squared, and it asked you to write the interval on which this function was increasing. So first of all, you could have tried some numbers. So like if you did this, if you made a table of x and f of x, and went like -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, you would have found the answer just by solving for it. So we could do that at -2. That's -2 squared is 4 times -1/2. That's -2. -1 squared is 1 times -1/2 is -1/2. 0 times, or 0 squared times -1/2 is 0. So this number is going up as x is going up, so it's increasing over here. Then you get to the other side, you'll get -1/2 again, and -2. So obviously it's decreasing on this side of 0. So that's one quick way to do it. But the easiest way would have been to go into your graphing calculator, type y equals, or hit the y equals button, type this in, hit graph, and you would have gotten a graph that looks like this. Whoa, okay, hold on. Sorry, it would not look like that because that was awful. It would look something like this. Also awful. Should be kind of like a, you would have gotten an upside down parabola. And we can very, very quickly and very, very easily see that it is increasing right here, and that it is decreasing right here. So for this one, your interval should have been just basically left of 0. So -infinity, and then to 0. 0 is not included because the slope at 0 is 0. It's horizontal. If you want to think about that one. Great. So if we draw our person in, on this side of 0, it's decreasing. On this side of 0, it's increasing. So at 0, it's actually just staying stable. And that doesn't really matter. I wouldn't have docked you if you used the wrong bracket on this one either. again, might have mentioned it, but you wouldn't have lost any points or anything for that. Okay. And the last one was asking for f of 1 plus 2 and f of 1 plus f of 2 for the function. What was the function? It was just f of x equals x cubed. F of x equals x cubed. So all this is asking you to do is plug these in. F of 1 plus 2 in parentheses, that's f of 3. So f of 1 plus 2 equals 1 plus 2 cubed. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 cubed is 27. And then this one's asking you for f of 1, which equals 1 cubed, which equals 1, plus f of 2, which equals 2 cubed, which equals 8. So you get 1 plus 8, that equals 9. And so you should have had 9 as your answer for f of 1 plus f of 2, and 27 for your answer for f of 1 plus 2. And this is just showing that why using the difference quotient and knowing how to use the difference quotient is important. If you have multiple numbers, so the difference quotient uses x plus h, and that's very different than f of x plus f of h. These are going to be very different terms, is kind of the point of this problem. But that probably doesn't really matter to you right now, and probably won't matter to you until we start doing limits in like second semester. So the way to solve this one was just to plug in the numbers there. And that is the entirety of the quiz. Obviously, it should be easier for me than for you guys. So, you know, if you didn't understand what I was talking about on some of those, feel free to talk to me about it in class, or send me an email or whatever. I'd be happy to help you guys through it. And hopefully we can get everybody who needs to make edits or to try to improve their score. Hopefully we can get you retests relatively soon. But I do want you to have practice. So if you haven't turned in the homework yet, do that before you ask for a retest, please. Otherwise, that's kind of it for this video. So yeah.